And we know that wildfires, outbreaking everywhere, and severe droughts and agricultural issues are just half of the battle that California faces. And our climate is ever changing, but a Native American tribe may be holding the keys to solutions. So tonight, in part one of our two-part series, Tribal Traditions, The Burning Battle, our meteorologist Carly Gomez went up north to learn about the Karuk tribe's plan to adapt with climate change and the battle that they are facing.
Kawurigao Kanukuhuti. Kawurigao Kanukuhuti. Kawurigao Kanukuhuti.
The state of emergency in parts of Northern California, 1,000 more acres destroyed.
It was just getting closer and closer, and the wind was just blowing.
Climate change is making these heat waves more frequent, causing things like droughts and wildfire.
Just trying to grapple with what we had just seen, and I don't even think that there's anybody that can adequately describe it.
Aaron Hillman narrowly escaped the 2020 Slater fire that killed 2 people near the base camp for the Karuk tribe.
I took off in my car and went down to Happy Camp, ran through the store, started grabbing boxes, telling everybody, you know, there's a fire, it's going, you know, we got to get going.
The Karuk tribe director of operations drove down to her family-owned grocery store to warn her husband, employees, and residents about the fire that broke out that September 8th morning. Erin and her husband hurried to save what they could at home, including their cat.
I grabbed her, and as I'm running out the door, my husband's going, hurry, hurry, hurry. He's got the truck back up to the fence back here. And all I remember is just looking over my shoulder. I had her in my one arm, and I looked over my shoulder, and everything was on fire.
But for the Hillmans and their neighbors, getting out of their home was only the first obstacle.
Like a little caravan, we were all, you know, in our cars, and we would go up a little ways and we would stop.
Finding a route out would prove to be a matter of life and death.
And all of a sudden we saw the fire popping up behind us, coming over the ridge, and it was getting ready to block us from our escape route.
Luckily, the small caravan of cars made it out. The Slater fire burned more than 150,000 acres, destroyed nearly 200 homes, and killed 2 people. Stories of fire outbreaks have become so common in California, but for the Karuk tribe, it's a frustrating situation.
Climate change has created this disaster waiting to happen. And so unless we do something, we are proactive about that, we're going to continue to have these kinds of disasters. And people's lives are going to be lost.
Living in the same serene banks of the Klamath River in the secluded Klamath-Siskiyou forests, the Karuk tribe's way of life has been somewhat preserved. That's until the last century and a half. Before the devastating Slater fire in 2020, the Karuk tribe of Indians created the Climate Adaptation Plan in hopes of preventing more catastrophic fire events. But tragedy struck before it could be adopted by legislatures or worked on as a potential state bill.
Well, it's intended to be a working document, lets people know that there's something different that can be done.
Bill Tripp is a member of the Karuk tribe and the co-author of the plan. He says their native people have always been able to manage the land and be a part of the landscape through generations of tribal practices.
Oh, hey, oh, oh.
I was raised in the ancestral village of Woonkatuk on the lower Salmon River. My great-grandma taught me how to use fire starting when I was 4 years old, and paying attention to the animals and the plants and everything in nature to be, you know, so they can serve as our guide.
Distinct to the Karuk tribe is cultural burning.
The cultural burn, it's a little bit different. It's like you're not parsing the landscape out into these distinct little units. You're picking times of year when the conditions are just right to where this component of the ecosystem will burn, whereas this one right next to it won't.
Tripp says their system of diverse trees and plants not only helped feed the people through acorns, native crops, and medicinal plants, but created a diverse forest with different burning properties.
But if you've got pine trees mixed with black oak and white oak and madrone, yeah, you can burn that after 4 days of sun in February.
Cultural burning wasn't just a form of ceremonial practice, but a way to keep their grasses, shrubs, and forest floors from becoming big fuel for lightning outbreaks. Craig Tucker, a natural resources policy advocate for the Karuk tribe, has been working for decades to bring change to the tribe's ancestral lands.
Native people had managed that landscape for acorn-bearing oak trees to feed the people, and they used fire for that management. If you don't put fire in, then those forests are overgrown by Doug firs and conifers. And so that's what we see today in the Klamath, where it's like a giant stand of Doug fir. And the timber industry really liked that. Those trees grow fast, they grow straight, they make good 2x4s.
As settlers moved into the forests of the Karuk and other indigenous peoples in the mid-1850s, gold mining, then eventually logging practices, were in the forefront. Karuk people were killed off, forced to move to reservations, and some fled into the mountains.
They discovered gold, and they stopped signing treaties. The way it was understood at the time of the signing was there was just going to be more people here, living here with us and taking care of the place. That isn't necessarily what it turned out to be.
Bill says the dispersal of the tribe over the last 170 years has proven to have profound effects on forest management.
There were well over 100 villages in the stretch of the river from Orleans up through Happy Camp and Salmon River country. You figure if each one of those villages had 3 people that focused on just doing that kind of small patchwork burning at every opportunity, that's 150 fires going simultaneously throughout the river corridor, 15, 20, 30 days a year or more. That's a lot of fire with very few people.
A lot of that landscape is owned and managed by the U.S. Forest Service. So the tribe is not able to simply practice their traditional land management practices without forging some kind of agreement with federal agencies.
Craig is working to undam the Upper Klamath River to help salmon, the staple of their diet, thrive.
How we treat tribes and tribal people, I think, is a reflection of what kind of people we all are. But I think tribes have a lot to teach us. We need to know how to live in this place without driving the fish extinct. How do we live in this place without fires burning down our house? Well, the Karuk have figured that out, and they're willing to share that information with the rest of us.
Kawuriyao Tanukuhuti. Kawuriyao Tanukuhuti. We're doing something good together, all of us.
We're going to take a quick break, but stick around because Carly Gomez is here to tell us a little bit more about the battle over cultural burning when we come back. Welcome back. Before the break, we watched Tribal Traditions, The Burning Battle, discussing the obstacles that the Karuk tribe is facing to burn on their land. Meteorologist Carly Gomez joins us now. Carly, my first question is, if the tribe doesn't get to decide when to burn, who does make that decision?
Ultimately, it comes up to a federal decision. It's the U.S. Forest Service land that gets to decide. It's the U.S. Forest Service, and they work together with CAL FIRE to do these prescribed burns, and it's a planned really assessment on whether or not they can. Now, I want to show you this because there is a zone map here. You can see by the U.S. Forest Service 10 zones. Number 3, earlier in May, there was a burn outbreak, a prescribed burn outbreak that happened in New Mexico. Now, when this happened, the U.S. Forest Service says that's it. Every national forest burn is halted at the moment. That includes number 5, California. And even though the climate conditions over New Mexico are not necessarily the same as California, tribes are saying that we really need to take a closer look at what's happening locally, not just nationally.
And what progress has been made for the climate adaptation plan. Is there anything there yet?
Yeah, there is. You know, we've been seeing a lot of senators and legislation, bills being pushed forward, even by the U.S. Forest Service and CAL FIRE, to actually get some of this burning happening on the forest floor. So they're saying, yeah, what happened in the past, that was the past. We realize now that the U.S. Forest Service is saying that this land does need to go and needs to be burned, of course, responsibly, but they also do need to learn to trust the tribes.
All right. And again, this is just part one of part two. Make sure that you tune in tomorrow at 6:30 for the second part of Tribal Traditions, The Burning Battle. As always, Carly, great to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.